My son-in-law, he waited until my daughter wasn't home and then he did it to me. I thought I had managed to seduce him, but the reality was completely different. This is my story. My name is Miriam, and I am a devoted housewife. Though I'm 58 years old, my life hasn't changed much since I was 20 and married Benjamin. I typically stay at home, cooking and doing chores while my husband spends his days at work or with his friends on weekends. We have 3 grown children who haven't lived with us for several years. This left me feeling quite lonely, to the point where I lacked the motivation to do even my daily tasks. I even started getting sick more often, despite being a strong woman who rarely even caught a cold. However, everything changed when my eldest daughter, Sophia, moved near our house with her new boyfriend, Alex. They were both 26 and had contagious energy. It was a blessing to have them visit on weekends and even for some lunches on weekdays. But as the months passed, I began to experience something that made me feel uncomfortable. I wasn't sure how or when it happened, but I was clearly captivated by my son-in-law. Not only was he handsome and athletic, but he also had impeccable manners and always had something interesting to say. I love talking to you, Miriam, he told me one day while we were having lunch together, as Sophia had to leave for work. I love your company too, I replied, smiling as I continued serving his plate. You're identical to your daughter, or should I say she's identical to you? You're making me blush, Miriam. It's true, he exclaimed. You're both the same, dedicated, loving, helpful, and you both cook deliciously. Then, as I went to hand him his plate, he took my hand. My heart raced as I felt the contact of his skin with mine. It seemed so innocent to me. Later, as I watched him leave with Sophia, I was left alone in my home again, feeling a deep pang of loneliness. I knew Sophia was in love with Alex, as a mother knows her daughter, but the more I thought about it, the more jealous I became that she was receiving the attention I craved from him. It even bothered me to sleep next to my husband, Benjamin, with whom I hadn't been intimate for several years. He didn't seem to have any desire to be intimate with me either. So, in my nights of desire, which had returned after spending time with Alex, I often had to take matters into my own hands. I had so much desire that I didn't care if it was with my husband or not, though my mind kept thinking of the young man who had captured my daughter's heart. Up to that point, my attraction to Alex was something innocent and personal that I kept to myself. However, everything would change on my birthday. That day, Sophia took me to a spa as a gift. It had been a long time since our last mother-daughter outing, so we decided to enjoy the moment together. The treatments they did on my hair, face, and body made me feel younger and empowered, capable of seducing anyone in front of me. But all those feelings dissipated when she confessed one of her secrets. I'm trying to get pregnant, she told me. It hit me like a bucket of cold water. Although I should have been happy that my daughter was giving me my first grandchild, it was the last thing I wanted at that moment. I'm so happy to hear that, were the only words that came out of my mouth. She knew they weren't the words of a mother happy that her daughter was following the cycle of life, but it was the most honest thing I could express at that moment. However, Sophia didn't seem to notice and instead continued the conversation. But I have a problem, she said with a remorseful face. That made me suspect that not everything was rosy with the news she had told me. What is it? I asked, intrigued. Alex doesn't know, she exclaimed. He doesn't want to be a father, he confessed it to me. But you know how much I want to start a family with him. I decided to stop taking precautions, so when I get pregnant, I'll say it was a mistake. Mom, promise me you won't say anything to Alex about this. At that moment, I felt my breath stop. I knew that the promise I had made to Sophia was worth a lot since she was my daughter, but I also had powerful information in my hands to get what I wanted. That thought swirled in my head throughout my birthday night. My husband and my other 2 sons got drunk while Sophia and Alex attended to the other guests, serving food and other things they had prepared. But as night fell, Sophia told me she was tired and was going to bed early. After everything was organized, my sons and my husband continued drinking with the music loud, and Alex didn't seem to want to join them. So I approached where he was sitting alone. Did you have fun today? He asked me. I did. I smiled. It was a good night. That day I had decided to wear a short, tight black dress that made me look 10 years younger. Following Sophia's advice, I had worn it without anything underneath because, according to her, it was fashionable. So at that moment, when the wind blew hard, I felt frozen in my little black dress that covered absolutely nothing. Miriam, you're shivering, he said, instantly covering me with his body. But I didn't care at all. Instead, a wave of emotions began to flood me instantly as my senses sharpened, capturing every detail of this moment. The comforting scent of her lotion, the rhythmic beat of our hearts melding with mine, the pleasant sensation of her warm and firm body against mine. In that moment, I decided to do what I wanted. Because if my daughter was capable of using Alberto to get what she desired, then I could do the same. I think I should come in, I said, testing his reaction. I'll accompany you, he said without a word. Then he took my hand and led me to my house. I felt like I was in heaven because I was receiving the treatment I desired so much, even without realizing that we were alone in my room. When I closed the door, I said, let's make sure to enjoy the preferential treatment my daughter has and I don't. I don't think this would fit you well, he said, showing me a jumpsuit that practically covered my entire body. I bit my lip. It was then or never. I have something to tell you, Alberto, I said. What happened? Are you okay, Mirda? He asked, furrowing his brow. I'm fine, I replied, slowly moving closer, my legs feeling like jelly but pretending to be confident as I advanced. But not my daughter, what I mean is... He didn't move, he seemed paralyzed by my sudden change in attitude. She'll stop taking care of herself so that we can both have a child, I continued. His bulging eyes didn't surprise me, and I even felt sorry for him. Alberto seemed confused and annoyed by what I said, so he took a couple of seconds to respond to me. How do you know? He finally asked. She told you? Of course, after all, I'm her mother, I said, shrugging. She also told me she doesn't want to be a father for anything in the world, he said, shaking his head. Why would Sophia do something like that? He asked. Sometimes women have to resort to desperate measures to get what we want, I said, almost as if the voice of experience was speaking. Although it was the first time I broke the mold of the perfect housewife and woman, at that moment, I sat on the bed, stretching my skin and sighing deeply. Slowly, I opened my legs, revealing that I was not wearing underwear. While he stood in front of me, his eyes bulged again. But this time, it would be different. His cheeks turned a shade of pink that made him look younger, while I could see his Adam's apple bobbing up and down several times as he swallowed hard. You have nothing to fear with me, I said. As time passed, his gaze darkened as he remained exposed without any shame. I decided to lift my dress a little higher while slowly touching my legs. He licked his lips without moving from his spot. Are you sure, completely? I asked, without saying a word. With each passing second, I felt my center contracting and moistening, ready to be used by Alberto. Suddenly, he knelt in front of me, taking one of my legs and lifting it onto his shoulder. Then I felt his warm mouth on my leg, moving up with butterfly kisses over every inch of my skin. My mind was spinning as I felt the moisture growing in my crotch while my erect chest begged to be touched. But my mind exploded when his tongue explored my opening for the first time. It was so soft but cold that it was impossible for me to contain the moans that escaped from my mouth, much less when both hands grabbed my hips and pressed me against his face, following a pattern that took me to heaven. It didn't take long before I finally exploded. But that was far from over because my dress flew over my body at the same time as my 4 limbs spread on the softness of the mattress. In addition, Alberto pressed against my back, making my chest also touch him, so the only thing left in the air was my behind. He didn't hesitate to enter quickly because he already knew I was ready. One of his legs was on the bed, which made me feel him deeper and deeper, while the sheet helped me camouflage the pleasure screams coming out of my mouth. But that didn't last long because Alberto grabbed my hair tightly and lifted my face, leaving it in the air. Let them hear you, he said between his own moans. Let them know that I'm making you mine. And I did. When we had finished the 4th round, Alberto lay me on his chest and stroked my back. I felt happy and satisfied because I had obtained what I had desired for several months, and the experience had surpassed any imagination I had had in the past. Ere I did it, I said to myself, congratulating myself for taking to bed a younger guy who had taught me what it meant to enjoy intimacy. However, as we were changing, Alberto said something that made me realize that my plan wasn't really mine. I already knew, he said. I furrowed my brow. What are you saying? She knew, he said. I stopped my hand, which was adjusting my dress. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. You offered yourself to me on a silver platter, and I wasn't going to waste the opportunity. Alberto's comment would have seemed cheeky if anyone else had made it, but coming from him, it seemed like a co-conspirator in a forbidden adventure. I laughed softly, almost like a little girl who had done something naughty, as I took off my clothes in front of him again and allowed him to do whatever he wanted with my body all night long. Alberto and I said goodbye the next morning as if nothing had happened, while Sophia thanked him for taking care of me when she had gone to sleep. I won't lie and say that I felt regret when I didn't. On the contrary, it was as if we both had a new inside joke to laugh at when we were alone. He would continue to take care of his mother-in-law when my daughter couldn't, and I couldn't be more grateful to have such a diligent son-in-law who would take me to the stars in bed on the nights when I was cold. These were today's stories. I ask you from the bottom of my heart to subscribe and like the video so I know you liked it and can keep uploading more stories. It would help me a lot. If you watch the next video, we're sure you'll enjoy it. See you tomorrow on Reddit Day.